6 hours of school, I've had enough for today. I hit the radio dial and turn it up all the way. I'm playing UK hockey fan. UK hockey fan.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the UK Hockey Fan Podcast. I'm Shane.
And I'm Finn.
And we're back with another bumper episode. We haven't been on for a couple of weeks because we've just been busy playing hockey ourselves. Finn's team doing great. My team getting going. Loads happening around the hockey scene. Men's hockey, women's hockey, UK hockey, NHL, OHL, all over the shop. So there's loads to talk about tonight. I'm really excited.
I am too, and today is a big day in the NHL world, seeing it's the trade deadline. So you got all the last minute things coming through. So we've had some big trades already, which we'll talk about later.
That's absolutely right. So we're sitting here watching all the news come floating in, and of course we're here in the UK. Plenty of hours, ahead of North America where the trades are happening. So they've just been sort of flooding in over the past couple hours. A couple big ones I've seen there. To name a couple, who did we Leafs? We regained somebody. I'm just jumping on that one quick.
Well, we didn't.
Rosen.
We didn't regain, but he got traded back. So we traded him a while ago to Colorado.
Yeah.
And we got him back for Michael Hutchinson.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay.
So he's meant to be a really good defenseman. I believe he's a defenseman.
Yeah, and it's a strange one with Hutch because we really liked Hutch. And obviously he was in on the Marlies, called up to the Leafs, and then never really went back down to the Marlies. So he's gone straight out the club now. But listen, we'll pick up more on trades in a minute. I'm drinking a brand new beer, which is quite exciting for the listeners.
Yeah.
New brewery here. It's a weird shout out for us because it's usually everything hockey related. But where we live locally in the UK, a new little microbrewery has opened up here called Elements Brewery near us in Oxford, here in Oxfordshire in England. And they've got a couple brand new beauties out. It's a lovely IPA I'm having here. So my golden tones delivered to you by Elements Brewery this evening. Now, probably one of the biggest stories that's happened is one that's happened most recently, and maybe it's kind of a cool story, and maybe we should kick off with that. I normally blabber on about something that's happened in my hockey past, but this is a cool story, right? The story of the emergency goalie.
Yeah, this was really cool. Both annoying and cool, but mainly cool.
So the dude's name is David
Ayres.
And Dave Ayres, if you're into hockey, you've already heard all about this, but I just want to go over a couple of the really interesting things about this. So Dave Ayres played, he was a goalie, he was an aspiring goaltender, and he had aspirations to make it to the NHL. He played some pretty solid junior hockey. And then I think about 15 years ago, he had to have a kidney transplant.
Okay.
And so that basically ended his, as you can imagine, if it comes up in your life that you need a kidney transplant and you're an athlete, that's pretty much going to blow a big hole in your aspirations. And which it did. So it didn't end his career, but it certainly derailed him for long enough that his hopes and dreams of making it into the show sort of disappeared. So that was 15 years ago. But he doesn't leave the sport. He carries on. He's a minor league hockey coach, this guy. And he also works as he's one of the operations manager around the Maple Leafs larger organization. And so he's in charge of one of the rinks, I think. And he's also the Zamboni driver, which is the thing that everybody's heard about the most. He's a Zamboni driver for the Marlies. But what people didn't realize was that he also is what they call a training goalie for both the Marlies and the Leafs. So as you can imagine, when they have their in their training routine, when you see a professional sports team play like the Leafs or someone like that, they don't train in the same way that your team might, Finn, or my team, and it's just everybody on the ice and let's all just run drills and maybe run a bit of a scrimmage. They'll sometimes train in teams, they'll in sub teams, and they'll train on different days and that sort of thing. And they always need a couple extra goalies, more than the two they've got on the roster or whatever.
Yep.
So there's a couple guys that will always stand in just to be, a human being in the pipes, and you got to know how to play. But they're sort of fill-in guys, and so if you're one of these fill-in guys, there's this whole thing about being an emergency goalie. Finn, can you explain that, how the whole emergency goalie thing works?
I think that there's always a spare. The emergency goalie is always at the game, and he is available to either team where one of their goalies is out, so he'll sit on the bench as the backup. Or if they lose both goalies, then he will play for the team that lost both goalies.
Yeah, so I don't know if how often they make it onto the bench as a backup goalie, whether they would bother about that. But yeah, that's essentially the thing. So the point of the matter is that every single game, every NHL game that's played, whoever the home team is, have to have an emergency goalie. They provide an emergency goalie who's on standby at the rink for that game in the event that either team runs out of goalies through injury or whatever happens, right? And so this almost never happens. It almost never happens that your starter goalie has to come off for whatever reason. So that's what your backup's there for. You throw your backup on, and then something happens to him too, so you've got no goalies left. Almost never happens. Really rare thing, right? Goalies are swapped all the time, so a coach can swap his goalie around if he thinks the guy that's in there isn't having a good night or whatever. He'll pull him off and put the backup on. So in that situation, if the backup guy got injured, you can just chuck your other goalie back out there again. You never really run out of goalies.
Yep.
Every once in a while it happens though, and it happened just this past weekend at Scotiabank. So coming back to this guy Dave Ayres, he's on standby. He's the emergency goalie, and he always has been and whatnot. And so as luck would have it, his dream, of course, would be, if it was ever going to happen, if he was ever going to come in as the emergency goalie, of course he wants to come in as the Leafs goalie.
Yeah.
But in this scenario, it doesn't happen at all. So we're playing against, I can't even remember who we're playing.
Carolina.
Oh, Carolina, sorry, yeah. Playing against the Canes, of course. Everybody's seen the shirts all over the place. I want to get one of those shirts.
The Ayres ones.
Yeah. And playing against the Canes, in goal, starting goalie is ex-Leafer Reimer, I think.
James Reimer.
Reimer was in goal, and early on, I think in the first period, he gets mowed down by Tavares, I think is what happened.
No,
Have I got that right?
No, Hyman was battling with one of the guys in front of the net and pushed the defender on top of Reimer into the goal.
Okay, all right. So that glitched out Reimer, comes out the game injured, into the dressing room, he's done. Backup goalie?
The backup goalie was Peter Mrazek.
Okay, Mrazek comes in, and he gets steamrolled by Tavares. Is that
No,
one of them did? I thought for sure.
Not by Tavares.
Oh right, what happened? Tell me what happened.
So the puck goes into the Kane zone.
Yep.
And Kyle Clifford, the new guy, so we'll talk about this trade.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
He goes in to get it because and he's really, really quick as well.
Yeah.
And he speeds through the defenders, so
Yep.
the goalie comes out to try and get it.
Yep.
And as they go in, he's not looking at the goalie; he's looking straight at the puck and where he's going.
Yeah.
And he just smashes right into the goalie.
And who's that? Who did the smashing?
Kyle Clifford.
Okay. All right. Okay. I don't know why I was thinking it was Tavares. Anyway, so second goalie out, and literally, so if you've been to a live NHL game, you know that there's these weird breaks when you're watching the game live because, of course, it's televised and on TV. It's gone to a commercial break or whatever, and that can last 5-10 minutes or whatever. So at the rink, the live action during that time is usually actually people come out with shovels and take a bit. They don't have time to do a proper Zamboni scrape, so people will come out and take a bit of the top snow off with shovels or whatever else, and that's filler that you see when you're at the live game. So when this all happened, as soon as that goalie went down injured, and the trainer would have had to come out to see how he was or whatever, at that second someone sent a text to Dave Ayres, who's the emergency goalie. He's not in his kit at this point.
No.
And so in the time that it takes to assess the injury, get that second goaltender off the ice and go to commercial break and whatever else they did, Dave Ayres gets completely kitted up in his goalie kit and skates out on the ice for the Canes as their emergency goalie.
Yeah.
And so the last time he's played goal was, as we were talking about, is a practice goalie for the Marlies and the Leafs. He hasn't played a proper competitive game, I think they said, in like 10 years or something like that. I don't know. I could be wrong on that.
I think it's 5 years.
It's not. Yeah, it's been a while though.
Yeah.
And he's certainly never played in the NHL.
No, yeah.
And so in that span of like 5 to 10 minutes, and I mean, I don't know what it's like in your dressing room with your team, dude, but I mean, for any team I played on, a goalie does not get dressed in 10 minutes.
No, it takes a while.
Especially not
With
a
all the
goalie
stuff.
who's literally shitting themselves because they're about,
They're about to play in the NHL.
Dude gets all his kit on and comes out into the pipes, and all the guys congratulate him. And his famous quote is, he said, one of the guys on the Canes team came up to him and just said, "Listen, we don't care if you let in 10 goals, mate. We're just happy that you're here. Just chill and do your best." And he said that really calmed him down a lot. So not that calm though. Because the very first shot the very first shot he faces goes straight in.
I mean, of all teams to face, I really would not want to face the Maple Leafs offense.
It's a team you know, right? And you see these guys, and you've practiced with these guys. You're staring down the barrel of Tavares and Matthews and all these guys, and you're thinking, oh my God, they're going to make me look like a fool here.
Exactly.
So first shot he faces, straight in, boom. Increases the Canes' lead. I think they're up 3-1 at that stage or something like that.
Yeah, I think so.
And the very next shot he faces also goes straight in.
Yeah.
So he's 0 for 2 in the first 2 shots. He lets both of them in. And everybody, including the crowd and everyone watching at home and anything like that's like, oh, God, here we go kind of thing. You know, he's going to sieve right up.
Easy win.
So he somehow manages, and we should have said that this happened in the second period. And so...
Yep.
He came in as the emergency goalie within the second period. He somehow manages to get himself out of that period and gets back to the dressing room. And everybody must have just been thinking, God, we've just got to keep them from shooting at all here. And good old Dave Ayres says, guys, I got you here. Don't worry. I'll be settled down in the third period. Everything will be fine. And, I just can't even imagine him saying that. He must have been I would have been just beside myself with nerves and everything else.
Especially just being in the dressing room with those guys.
Yeah.
You know?
So he's sitting in there in his Canes outfit. They gave him the number 90, and he comes out, or he comes in the dressing room. He's like, "Don't worry, boys, I got this." Having just let in 2 goals. So anyway, he goes back out for the third period and faces some proper badass shots from the likes of Tavares and Matthews. I think Matthews had 2 pops at it, and he saves every one of them. He has a shutout third period, didn't he?
Yep.
The important thing is the dude records the win.
Exactly.
And
First
so
ever game.
That's it. It's an amazing story. The emergency goalie, Dave Ayres, never happened before. And so I just read on Instagram, just as we were coming on, that his stick has already been taken and it's being put into the Hockey Hall of Fame because he now holds 2 records. The first record is he is the first emergency goalie in the NHL history to record a win. Remember
Scott Foster.
he didn't record a win. They lost.
Did they?
Pretty sure they lost.
I'm Googling this.
Google it up. I was going to say that Foster guy who was the big emergency goalie story of last year. And he's also the oldest goaltender to record a win on his debut in the NHL because he's 42 years old, which was the other amazing part of that story. So I neglected to mention that obviously he lost sort of like 15 years in his career there. The dude's now in his 40s, and his debut game, he's 42 years old. How's it going on the Scott Foster thing there?
No, they won.
Oh, did they win?
They won 6-2.
How does that... We're gonna have to look it up.
I mean,
again.
he was only in for a very
look-
small portion of the third period.
I'm gonna look it up again, and maybe we'll come back on
Maybe-
that after
maybe-
we have Cliffy.
Be sure it's the it could be the win in when after playing the majority of a game, maybe.
Something like that, or maybe you can't consider it your win unless you've played the majority of the game. He maybe played more than half the game, so it's his win.
I don't know, something like that.
I'll look it up when we have Cliffy on, and we'll try and come back at the end of this podcast. Right. So, and we mentioned Cliffy there, Scott Antcliffe. We're going to try and get him on, as always, in the middle of the show, and he'll give us a little insight into what's happening around the UK. I'm looking forward to the Canada versus UK game coming up in March or May.
I think it's May.
May. It's a ways away yet. So we got wicked seats, and really looking forward to that. What else have we got going here?
We, as I mentioned, we have the Clifford trade, which also brought in a new backup goalie, who's proved pretty good so far.
So should we let's box up trades for a minute. We'll talk about
Okay, yeah.
trades in general in a second. How about we cover off some of the last couple Leafs games?
Yeah. So we've unfortunately missed a few, and it hasn't gone great. We've been missing Cody Ceci, Morgan Riley, and recently Andreas
When you
Janssen.
say you missed a few, you mean there's been a few games since we were on our last podcast.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
And it's been up and down because we were on a streak, and it's been a bit up and down, couple wins, couple losses, more recently. So let's cover off the last game that we were just talking about. What was the final score of that was the last time they played, wasn't it?
Carolina, we played Sunday.
Yeah. So and it's
No, sorry.
Saturday, and it's Monday today. The
Yep.
trade deadline day.
So Leafs won at 1-0 in the first period.
Oh, so that. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Carry on.
So Alex Kerfoot scoring his 9th as a Leaf
Right.
this season, and assist going to Jake Muzzin and Kasperi Kapanen. The Canes score four goals in the second period, 4 straight goals to make it 4-1. And then Ayers comes in. John Tavares scores to make it 4-2, with assist going to Tyson Barrie and William Nylander. And then Pierre Engvall scores not long after to make it 4-3, with assist going to Tyson Barrie and Kasperi Kapanen. And then in the third period, they scored 2 goals to make the final score 6-3. And as expected, David Ayers got first star of the game.
That's amazing. Yeah, he did get first star. That's another really cool thing about that game. Tyson Barrie, we mentioned just there, so he's a trade candidate. Lots of talk about him bobbling around at the moment, but no news on that as we speak.
No, there is exactly... it's exactly 39 minutes left until the trade deadline.
Right, okay. So loads of stuff can happen while we're on here, and if anything interesting does, we will let you know. So that was the most recent Leafs game. Then the game before that, we played against the Pens, I believe.
And that was a big win, seeing as we played the Pens before and we lost. We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
So Leafs played the Pens, and in the first period there were no goals.
Yep.
Second period, Jake Muzzin scores with assist going to Justin Hull and John Tavares to make it 1-0. Then William Nylander scores his 27th, assist going to Austin Matthews and John Tavares. Kasperi Kapanen then scores to make his 12th of the season, with assist going to Alex Kerfoot and Jake Muzzin. And then in the third period, Zach Hyman scores with assist going to Mitch Marner and Jake Muzzin to make it 4-0. Frederick Anderson gets the shutout.
That's huge, right? Because Freddie just desperately needs and deserves a shutout now and again. So yeah, that was a big win. So we're going sort of chronologically backwards. So the Canes game was on Saturday, the Pens game was Friday, was it?
Thursday.
And we'd played the Pens just before that in a home and away series
Yeah, so we played them on Tuesday.
on Tuesday, and that score was less good.
5-2 Pens.
Yeah. So do you want to rattle through those?
Well, I mean, the final score was 5-2.
Yeah. Who scored for Leafs? I don't care about the Pens.
Penn scored 5 straight goals. That's why.
5 unanswered goals,
Well, yeah. Then,
and we clawed back 2.
yeah, so Austin Matthews scored, because it's Austin Matthews.
Yeah.
His 43rd of the year.
That's good.
With assist going to William Nylander and Jake Muzzin. And Kyle Clifford scored his first as a Leaf, with assist going to Jason Spezza and Marty Marincin.
That's awesome. But still a loss. So the last 3 games, lost, won, lost. When do we play again?
When do we play again?
Yeah,
We play Tampa tomorrow night.
tomorrow night, so Tuesday night.
Do you want to hear one good? We won at the start of that week. Not the Saturday just passed, the Saturday before.
Yeah,
Played Ottawa.
Yeah.
And we won 4-2. So Matthews scored in that game. And then Muzzin scored in the second period to make it 2-0. Nylander then scored to make it 3-0. Former Leaf Connor Brown scored to make it 3-1. He plays for Ottawa anyway. Ottawa scored again to make it 3-2, and Mitch Marner gets the empty net, assist going to Austin Matthews.
Sweet. Awesome. Okay. Fantasy hockey.
You want to talk about that?
Should we jump onto that for a sec?
Yeah, so you want to talk about what happened in the past week?
Just to remind people that have listened, or if you're listening for the first time, UK Hockey Fam has its own fantasy hockey league. You can find it on the SBN app. If you've got that fantasy sports app, they do loads of sports on there. We only do the hockey one. We set up a league at the beginning of the season and held a draft and all that stuff, and we're joined in that league. Wow! So we each have a team. Scotty Antcliffe has a team, and there's players. Rachie Cartwright from Bracknell Queen Bees is in there. There's players, listeners, family, friends, the whole lot. And so we've been talking about it pretty much every episode, and it has really tightened up in the middle.
Yeah, it has indeed.
So both Finn and I ended up, although we started the league and Finn runs the league, we were both rock bottom, last and second last, for a good solid chunk of the season. And we finally turned the corner since Christmas sort of thing, and have managed to lift ourselves off the bottom. I am duking it out with Scott for third place at the moment, and Finn, you're hot on my heels. And I think in the middle of the table, the difference between sort of 6th, 5th, 4th, and 3rd, there's only like 100 points, something like that, 120 points, 150 points, something like that. So it's all really tightening up in the middle. So we also, our league just like mirrors the NHL. So the trade deadline for our fantasy league was also today.
It wasn't today, it was last Thursday.
Oh, was it last Thursday?
It didn't get perfectly mirrored.
Okay. All right, sorry. So we were a few days ahead for some reason. And did they set that, or did we set that? Is it just the fantasy league?
I can't remember. I think I tried to do it perfectly, and then I didn't go back and change it.
Right, got it wrong.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we had our trade deadline. And so Finn and I, between us, assembled a massive trade of players.
Yeah, we're basically hoping just to try and get in like the top 3 solidly. So we decided to make I could say a god team, to be honest.
Well, the thing is that at the moment we are battling one another to try and get into even 3rd place. And so we sort of made a pact that if we got to this stage in the year and the trade deadline. Why am I saying tread? The trade deadline. This is good beer. The trade deadline was looming, and that we knew we had only one last shot. And so I was also speaking to Elliot, who's a listener, who has been in first place by a million miles all season. He just assembled a master team, and I was speaking to him last week, and he's so far ahead that we knew our only hope was to whichever one of us, Finn or myself, was ahead by the trade deadline, we'd keep that team and do a massive trade off of the other team onto one team to try and somehow catch Elliot and close that massive gap that's between us. And so we executed a trade of about how many players actually moved? About 16?
6.
No, but
in
from each team. So
6 from each team, so 12 in total.
A 12 player swap in fantasy league. Probably a rarely seen massive dozen people swapping right before the trade deadline. So we've assembled the other team. Now there is one major issue with this team that we've assembled. And that
they all play on the same night.
Well, there's that, and the reason that most of them play on the same night is because most of them are on the Toronto Maple Leafs. So the catch with the challenge here is that the Leafs really we've pinned our hopes for our fantasy league to the fortunes of the Toronto Maple Leafs, for better or for worse.
Which, as everyone knows, is awful. No, we basically just traded all these Leafs guys because they're all doing really, really well. Because if you look at Leafs players, they're not the highest point players in the league.
Yeah.
But they're all like equally spread with points. They're all equally pretty high up, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Which means, so let me read out this trade just to give good context here. So, I traded Nikita Kucherov from the Tampa Bay Lightning, Mitch Marner from the Toronto Maple Leafs, Travis Konechny from the Philadelphia Flyers, Artemi Panarin from the New York Rangers, Cale Makar from Colorado, and Neil Pionk from Winnipeg. For Jakub Vrana from Washington, Zdeno Chara of Boston, Brian Rust of Pittsburgh, Mike Hoffman from Florida, Phil Kessel from Arizona, and Jake Muzzin from Toronto.
Some of those guys that I'd only just acquired as well, so we're really rolling the dice here, hoping that we've assembled a super team. So if everything goes to plan, one of our teams will probably sink to the bottom, and the other one will rocket to the top.
Do you want to hear the best bit about this?
I'd like to hear any good bit.
Oh, then okay. Basically, my team, which I basically just haven't looked at in about a week,
Yeah.
is 2 points behind this one.
I know. I was noticing that. So,
Somehow.
yeah. So it's still all to play for. Elliot, if you're listening, I still think that you are well in there to win the league this year.
I think he's 600 points in front of second.
Now, while talking about fantasy hockey, I wanted to once again do a quick plug for this fantasy hockey league that reached out to us on social media, and they are called Ultimate Fan something or other. I'm just looking them up again here. It's terrible of me to have not looked it up. So their handle on social media is UFF Sports Official, the Ultimate Franchise Sports Fantasy League. And so they've got this amazing hockey fantasy league where you can actually bid for, I think through online auction, and buy an NHL franchise. And if you buy your franchise, you run a team like a proper team owner, and obviously they'll have their drafts and all their trades and everything else. It mirrors the NHL exactly. There's only as many franchises available as there are NHL teams, and I'm assuming that they'll cover the expansion teams as they enter as well. Run by a bunch of great people in Canada. The last time I spoke about them, I think I mistakenly said they were in Kitchener. I don't know why, but I believe they're in Saskatchewan somewhere. Really great people, but Ultimate Franchise Fantasy Sports, the UFF Sports, and you can find them definitely on Instagram and Twitter. UFF Sports Official, all one word. If you search them up on that, you'll find them. Check them out. It's a great idea. I heard from them recently that I think they had a franchise up on auction. If this sounds good to you, and you're a proper fantasy player, and you wanna, you're in for a little money. There's money at stake there. Prizes and the whole lot. Check them out. UFF Sports. It's the Ultimate Franchise Fantasy Sports. Give them a look, because it sounds like a really good thing. If we weren't all twisted up in our own league at the moment, I'd definitely check it out. So give them a look. Where should we go from there? A couple injuries from Leafs. We were just talking about Leafs. A couple guys out. It just reminds me from my fantasy team, because I remember that I dropped Janssen because he pulled an injury. So we got a couple guys that are out, aren't they?
So Janssen is out for the season. He's expected to miss 6 months after undergoing knee surgery.
Crikey, that's a long time, isn't it?
Yeah, and he was meant to be traded for like some beast defenseman.
That's like the big old Crosby injury, you remember? He was like...
his ankle, yeah.
Like a season, or the better part of a season.
Yeah, as we also mentioned, Riley has been out for a while now. He'll be out for 8 weeks. This was from January, so I believe he's about... I believe he'll be back in about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
In theory, so maybe just before playoffs, see if we make it. And then CC is out as well. I don't have his exact injury, but he's out for a while as well.
Yeah, so injuries starting to bite just as we head into the crucial time towards the playoffs.
Anderson was out a game.
Oh, that's right too. So Freddie,
a game or two, sorry, because of a neck injury.
That's right.
Which brought along the trade.
Yes.
So the trade that happened, the main trade that happened recently, was Leafs traded Trevor Moore, a 2020 third round pick, and a 2021, I believe, conditional pick, for the third round as well.
Yep.
They traded that to Los Angeles Kings for Jack Campbell, really good backup goalie, and Kyle Clifford.
Yes.
Who is really, really tough, probably one of the toughest players in the league, and one of the only people I've seen to clean knock out Roman Polak in a fight. So I like this guy.
Well, I do and I don't, because I love Polak. But yeah, so we've talked on previous episodes about how the Leafs are pretty exposed this year. The more that we've got these hotshot gunslinger forwards like Matthews and Marner and things like that, the more glaringly obvious it has become that those guys are pretty unprotected out there. The only sort of proper you couldn't even call him an enforcer, but tough guy that we had was Kadri, and we traded him away last year. So we need some tough guys, and Clifford could be our guy.
He fought in the Carolina game.
And who did he go up against? Do you remember?
Can't remember.
How'd he do?
He looked pretty good.
Yeah, he looks tough.
It was one of the things where the guy held his right arm, so he couldn't get the proper swings. But I
Yeah,
reckon
yeah.
if that guy hadn't got on like quick,
Yeah.
that's it.
Which is something that we've been desperately missing. So if you think about the lineup there, who is actually even willing to throw down that often? Hyman,
Muzzin.
Muzzin's pretty tough.
Surprisingly, Kasperi Kapanen. He's been in a couple fights recently.
Cappy will drop the gloves, but in terms of somebody dropping the gloves and
In order to
properly
win,
pulverizing someone,
Gilbert Clifford.
Clifford could be our guy. So yeah, new goalie, new tough guy.
Do you want to hear his amazing quote when he arrived?
Yeah.
So Kyle Clifford was interviewed on Adding Grit for the Maple Leafs, and his quote was, "I mean, they didn't bring me in to outpace Austin Matthews in goals." So I thought that was pretty good.
That is a good quote.
I like someone who brings that in as their first one.
Yeah.
So a couple numbers for you here. Jack Campbell will wear number 36 for the Leafs, and Kyle Clifford will wear number 73 for the Leafs.
Right. And so two great additions and timely additions, because we are obviously, as per usual, the season drags on, people get tired, and injuries start to come thick and fast. So it's great to be injecting some talent where we need it at a time when we're getting stung by a bunch of injuries as well. So that's good. Good news on Leafs. Do you know one of the other things I was going to talk about?
Okay.
TikTok.
TikTok.
Yeah, TikTok.
Yeah, I've heard of it. The thing is, I don't use it.
I don't have a clue of what it is.
I
I don't
genuinely don't know.
understand it.
I know you tried. Like, this sounds really weird because it's meant to be like a thing with the kids, and I don't have it, and you do.
Yeah. So
I have no idea how it works.
I don't even know what So I got it right. So TikTok, those people that are more in the know of this sort of thing than me, so UK Hockey Fam. We're across social media. We've got a website. You find us pretty much anywhere. But we weren't on TikTok, and I thought, oh, what's this TikTok thing? And so I looked at the TikTok thing, and I'm like, I don't know what it is, but I'm going to open an account. So we've got a UK Hockey Fam account on TikTok, and there's a couple of videos up there too if people want to see, because people only ever hear us, right? And we throw a lot of pictures and stuff onto Instagram and Twitter. But in terms of video content, we're pretty light on the ground and that sort of thing. We might go for it. We've talked about going for a YouTube thing maybe next season or something. Anyway, so I thought, oh, well, this seems all right. I'll chuck a bunch of things on. I can't figure it out. I don't even know what it is or why anybody would put anything on there or ever go and look on there. Do you know what
it doesn't make sense to me.
So there's a couple there's a bunch of cool hockey people on there that like hockey. And I found a few Leafs fans and whatnot that are on there, and there's this one guy who's particularly funny, some Leafs fan dude that puts some pretty funny videos on there. But other than that, I don't get TikTok. It seems to there's no on like Instagram, people become social media influencers on Instagram and Twitter and things like that. And people actually make the millions out of it. These people who have millions and millions of followers and influence people to buy stuff, and companies pay them and all that sort of thing. But on TikTok, I mean, I don't, there's no money there. There's no sponsorship deals or anything like that. As near as I can tell, there isn't. It seems to be people using TikTok to steer people from TikTok to either Twitter or Instagram, where they have another account.
Where they have their main whatever following.
We struggle to, because we have normal lives and whatnot. We struggle to spread ourselves out, and to be fair, we probably concentrated on Instagram the most, and so we got about 10,000 followers on there or whatever. Nowhere near that on Twitter, and on TikTok it's ridiculous. I got like 5 followers. So if you're listening and you want to follow us on TikTok, whatever it's called, TikTok, yeah, TikTok.
That works too.
TikTok's more useful.
It would be.
If you want to follow us on there, have a look. That's got some stupid hockey videos on there. But it just seems to be an exhibition of really bad tattoos. I think that's what it's about.
Really?
It's just people with hideously terrible tattoos and want to show everybody how bad their tattoos are.
Looking like absolute idiots.
Yeah, totally. People that have ruined themselves with bad tattoos. It should be called Tat Tot or something. Anyway, that's my TikTok rant. But we are now on TikTok.
Yeah, you shouldn't be bad-mouthing it now.
I bet we won't be on there long. It's rubbish. Right.
It's rubbish. It's just the fact you go, yeah, we're on that now. It sucks.
Yeah, don't look at us on there. We're terrible. It's terrible. Unless you got a terrible tattoo. If you got an awful Leafs tattoo, go on there and let us see it. Right. Okay. So,
Do you want to round off some signings and stuff as well?
yeah, let's do that.
So far, and I'm just gonna refresh my social media feed just in case anything else has gone down while we've been talking. Not really. So
Okay.
it's
This just in. Nothing.
yeah. You know those signs that you
Yeah,
see.
Nothing happened.
You know those signs that you see on like an old building where it says like a fact about the old building, when it was built and stuff, and who it was built by.
Yeah.
I've seen ones where we live that say like in 1972. Nothing happened.
Nothing happened. Yeah, it's like seeing a road sign. It's like, 15 miles to the next sign.
Yeah, it's just completely useless in every regard.
Right. Anyway.
Anyway, yeah. So Pierre Engvall who's been pretty good.
Yeah.
He's been re-signed for 2 years to a total of 2.5 mil at about a 1.25 per year.
Dubas with the money bags out.
Absolute legend. Dude is over 6 foot tall. He's getting the money.
Yeah. They remeasured. They thought he was 5'11". He's come in at 6.
I mean, his neck. He looks like. Some people nicknamed him the gazelle or the giraffe.
Did they?
Yeah, he's got a really long neck.
Does he?
Yeah.
Gosh, that's not a real strength in ice hockey.
Oh, it gives you the extra foot, you know.
I guess so.
No. Also, just today. No, not just today. This was the Malgin trade. So he's been here since 5 days ago.
Okay.
So we traded Mason Marchment, who was a Marlies guy, played a couple games for the Leafs, for Dennis Malgin, another forward, to play more of a depth role, and apparently he's been pretty good, according to Keefe.
Right.
So Keefe and Dubas say he's pretty good. And then we also, so this was today, Dmitry Timashov was placed on waivers, and he's been claimed by the Detroit Red Wings. So Timashov is gone. And we traded Michael Hutchinson, as we said earlier, for Calle Rosen. And that's pretty much all the good trades and stuff for the Leafs so far.
Cool. Okay.
I'm really hoping for something good from Dubas.
In the last 20 minutes or whatever. Yeah, it's 19 minutes. Is that what it is?
Yep.
19 minutes left. Okay. I know that Cliffy's coming on in about 3 minutes. Anything that we can squeeze in before he jumps on to do his UK roundup?
I have a couple cool things where so some retirement and a couple milestones.
Yeah. I know exactly what you're thinking of.
So number 1, Ovechkin.
Yeah,
Ovechkin hit 700 goals.
that's big.
He is top 10 all time.
He's in the top 10 scorers of all time.
He's only 194 away from Wayne Gretzky.
That's amazing. He's looking old though.
Yeah, he is.
Every time I see him, I think, jeez, he looks old.
He's got grey hair.
It's
That's
because he's
why.
let his hair go grey.
Yeah.
See, if Rocket Richard would have had the old Grecian formula going that keeps your hair nice and dark,
Legend.
you have no idea what that means, but it used
No.
to be on TV, and there's this stuff that you put in your hair, this stuff called Grecian formula, and if you're going grey, it's meant to bring your natural hair color back.
Oh.
And famously, Rocket Richard was on this commercial where he was coming out of the locker room, and he was looking his best in the suit and things like that, and there's a ref there, and he says, "Hey Richard, 10 minutes for looking so good."
Oh. Okay.
It's not funny.
It's
It's
not even
funny
good.
when I tell it.
It doesn't even sound funny if you saw it.
People in the know will know exactly what I'm talking about. It was a really famous commercial. Anyway, Ovi, you need the Grecian formula, man. You're looking old.
Okay. Dude hit 700 and you're just taking the what's it out of him for his grey hair.
Yeah, well, there you go. He's not a Leaf.
That's true. I wish he was. Would be great. You know,
He would be my favorite player.
and a nice Matthews Marner Ovechkin trio.
Imagine.
Power play of Tavares,
Yeah.
Ovechkin, Marner, Matthews.
Who knows?
Zdeno Chara hit a big milestone,
Oh, yeah.
playing his 1500th game
That's
in the NHL.
That's loads.
So Warrior gave him some commemorative golden gloves with every single team he's played for on them.
Oh right, yeah. He's made the rounds.
So yeah, so he's got the Bruins, the main ones are the Bruins on the thumbs,
Yeah.
and then he's got the Islanders and the Sens, nice and big there too.
So is he wearing them in the game? No.
No,
They're just for
So-
the trophy case.
Yeah, so teams do different things for people's 1,000th game and
Right,
stuff.
right.
Like, I think it was Rick Nash got like a solid silver stick that said like 1,000 on,
Yep.
with his sponsor or whatever, the people who make his sticks.
Right.
They kept his bespoke blade from
Okay.
from I think his like first ever game,
Right.
and they kept that mold and they made this silver stick exactly his height
That's
with
very
the
cool.
same curve that he first used.
His
or
height
whatever.
as well. That's a few tons of silver.
It's a pretty sweet looking stick. I mean, it would go for more than £10 on eBay.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, that's big money
Yeah,
that
that is huge money. I think I must have played over 1,000 games.
in your life or in the NHL
Oh no, yeah, I'm just talking career.
career. Yeah.
So coming up, new team. Did we talk about the new team, Oxford?
Yeah,
Oxford 84s
I
last
think
time.
we did.
New team up and running, and I've joined a new team, the Oxford 84s, and so in 2020 will be. I'm just trying to think here. My 40. So I'm struggling with the maths. Something like my 45th season.
Jesus.
And I have to admit, I'm struggling with my knees and hips a bit at the moment.
You
but
just got to hold on like 2 years.
I know. So we also, apart from our fantasy hockey team pact, we also have a pact, which is I have to hang on playing, remaining an active player, at least until Finn is old enough for the two of us to play on the same team for one season.
I mean, then you'll stop getting back problems from carrying the team because I'll be there instead to share the weight.
Believe me, if anyone from the Oxford 84s is listening, I am not carrying anything. I'm at the bottom of the barrel there. But
Completely joking.
But no. Anyway, I digress. Listen, we need to get Cliffy on. I'm just looking at
Yeah.
the clock. Let's get.
Well, we got a few
let's
more
get
stories
Scott
for
on.
after then, right?
Yeah, cool. Well,
Right.
let's get Cliff.
Okay.
Cliffy's Notes.
So we've got Scott and Cliff. This is a section of the show that we call Cliffy's Notes, and Scott joins us every episode to give us a little bit of a roundup of UK hockey and those sorts of things. Scott, are you there?
I am indeed. Good evening, guys.
Hey, great to have you on again, as always. I know that there's, it's a good time of year for UK hockey and that sort of thing. There's probably been quite a bit of stuff happening. Tell us what's happening around the leagues.
Yeah, so this is what we like to call the business end of the season. So now there's about 10 games left in the Elite League, and yeah, it's definitely coming down to the wire. There's 4 teams really fighting it out in contention to win the league. The Sheffield Steelers currently sit in top spot with 61 points from 46 games. Then just below, Cardiff Devils are on 60 points. They've got 3 games in hand, though. They played 43 games. Then in third place, there's the Nottingham Panthers with 55 points in 44. Then in fourth place, there's the Belfast Giants with 55 points in 45 games. So very tight, very close at the top. So each game does really count. And even over the weekend, there's been some very close scoring games. So I'll just run through those as well.
Great.
On Saturday, Cardiff Devils defeated the Guildford Flames 4-2. The Sheffield Steelers bounced back from a bit of a losing streak. They lost 4 on the bounce after previously winning sort of 7 in a row. So the Steelers have kind of really dented the chances a little bit with those 4 losses and 4 big losses as well. They bounced back with a 4-point weekend and they beat the Nottingham Panthers 6-2 on the Saturday. And then Manchester Storm beat the Belfast Giants in a shootout, 5-4, so that's a big win for Manchester. Coventry shut out Glasgow Clan on home ice 2-0. And Dundee Stars lost to the Fife Flyers 3-1. Then on Sunday, Steelers defeated the Belfast Giants 4-1. Coventry Blaze lost in overtime to the Cardiff Devils 4-3. The Fife Flyers defeated Manchester Storm 3-2. And the Guildford Flames beat the Nottingham Panthers 4-1, so that helped out the Sheffield Steelers, certainly that win. But as you can see, there's been some really close games, and it's coming really down to the wire, and it all makes for an exciting end to the season.
It's fantastic, and I mean, and it does sound like things are really hotting up. People that regularly listen to the podcast know that that you're based up around Sheffield, so are a Steelers fan. We sort of adopted Steelers as being one of our adopted teams that we support. So, what are you thinking? What are our chances?
I think Steelers have got a good chance. I mean, previously before the 4-game losing streak, the title and was effectively in our hands in terms of the bearing of where it would go, but now we're relying on other teams and their results to go in our favour, because if Cardiff win out all their games, based on points, they will be champions. Whereas if Steelers without all their games, we could still potentially fall short to Cardiff with their games in hand, what they've got. So it's going to be close. I mean, it now is more reliant on how the likes of Cardiff do and how the likes of Nottingham and Belfast do as well. So if you'd have asked me maybe 2 weeks ago, I would have said to you, Shane, Steelers are in the driving seat and, got a really good chance. Whereas now we're kind of on the back foot a little bit after the 4-game losing streak, and it's certainly in other teams' hands. So I wouldn't like to say, but it's certainly going to come down to the wire and potentially between Sheffield and Cardiff once again, as it has been for the last few years, really.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I mean, obviously, we just can't afford to put any more losses on the old spreadsheet.
No. So, but it's entertaining and it's kept the fans interested. I mean, for parity of the league, it's been so close this season, and even looking at the table in terms of from first position to sixth position, there's only really 10 points in it.
Yeah.
And, I mean, there's a bit of disparity between the bottom teams in terms of Fife and Dundee. But even at the bottom end of the table, from 10th, which is Fife in last position, to 7th, which is the Manchester Storm, there's only 5 points in it. So those teams will be fighting it out for the playoff spots because the top 8 teams go into the playoffs. So even at the bottom, there's going to be some really competitive hockey in these final sort of 10 games or so.
That's fantastic. I know for sure, I can always tell because we obviously follow and are followed by loads of hockey fans, both here and abroad, on the likes of Instagram and Twitter. And both of those, Instagram and Twitter, have just blown up about all of this hockey to do with Steelers and the Clan and Cardiff and everything else. My feed is just full of UK hockey at the moment, which is amazing.
Yeah, no, it's great to see, and it's obviously good that people are talking about it, and it gets the word out there for potential new fans who might think about making it to a game or two as well. For
sure. That's fantastic. So that's largely a roundup of the men's hockey here. Cliffy, you usually help us out with casting your eye over the women's hockey here in the UK as well. Any news there?
Yeah, absolutely. So similar with the men's hockey, it's very tight at the top. Between the Bracknell Queen Bees, who obviously friends of the show, and the Solihull Vixens, who are they're really fighting it out at the top. And in terms of points, the Queen Bees have played 12 games, bearing in mind that they do have a shorter season and not as many games as the men's game. The Queen Bees have played 12, won 10, drew 1, and lost 1, and they're on 21 points. The Solihull Vixens are in second place on 20 points, so they've played 11, won 10, and lost 1. So it's really, really tight at the top. And then after that, there's the Guildford Lightning in third with 12 points from 11 games. The Kingston Diamonds in fourth with 9 points from 10 games. And then you've got the Stretton Storm with 8 points from 15. And then you've got the poor bless them, the Nottingham Vipers, who I believe were promoted from the Premier Division last season. They've played 11 games and yet to win, unfortunately. But tight at the top, and our friends the Queen Bees are looking good. And even in the point standings, basically the top 10 is pretty much full of Solihull and Bracknell Queen Bees players. And Rachel Cartwright, who's a previous guest of the show, she currently sits in 5th position with 22 points from 13 games.
Amazing.
And then teammates Emily Harris in 4th, Catherine Gale in 6th. And then the first 3 in the point standings are Jodie Bloom, Saffron Allen, and Katie Henry, all of the Vixens, and they're all GB women's players as well. So some notable names in the point standings, as well as obviously the Solihull and Bracknell at the top of the league as well. Yeah,
some really fantastic hockey. I've been following certainly loads and loads more video clips and things like that turning up on Twitter as well. So most of the great goals are now finding their way on there, which is a fantastic boost for the sport as well. But a couple powerhouse teams there for sure. If I've got the stats right of what you're saying, the top 2 teams have only lost 1 game each of the games that they played so far this year.
Yeah, absolutely, and it just goes to show how strong those teams are, and and rightly so, they're fighting out at the top of the league, and it's really going to come down to the wire with their games as well. So it'd be interesting to see how that one plays out.
Fantastic. Well, it's probably timely to try and get another one of those team members onto the podcast if we can. So maybe we should throw out a little a call out and see if any of them want to come on.
Yeah, absolutely. I know I've been in talks with a couple of players, and it's just essentially finding time to do it because they've got busy schedules, and so have we with our lives. But hopefully within the next week or two, we'll be able to sit down and have a chat with a couple of players, and be good to maybe get a Solihull player on and a Bracknell player on the same episode to kind of give you that perspective from both camps, really.
That's a great idea. Yeah, we should definitely do that. That sounds great. Fantastic. Well, listen, Cliffy, I know time is tight because I think that you also do a Periscope, if I'm not mistaken. And
yeah, I do. It's on my sort of Twitter page at Cliffy Hockey, and yeah, so people be jumping on there later, and we talk all things Elite League and British hockey as well.
Fantastic. Well, listen, thank you so much for doing a bit of a whiz around the UK leagues. We massively appreciate it, and the feedback that we always get every episode is that people really appreciate the leagues here being covered. So it's always great to have you on.
Oh, great. No, it's great to hear that feedback, and without obviously the listeners and the guys who listen to this and whatnot, we wouldn't really have a podcast. So we're grateful for their support, and it's great to hear those kind words. And as always, boys, it's great to jump on and chat with you guys as well.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much again, Scott, for coming on, and we'll look forward to having you on the very next episode.
Sounds good, guys. Take care.
You too.
Cheers.
Oh, it's always so great to have Scott on the show. Scott Antcliffe, he mentioned his Periscope there. He does a really great Periscope regularly, I think weekly, maybe even more often. But he comes on the show every episode, and he's our man here in the UK. He's a player himself, and people that listen to the show know that I was lucky enough to skate with him and the Sheffield Ice Tigers a couple times. Great bunch of guys. Scott Antcliffe there. Really appreciate him. And especially, we've always tried to, where we can, remind people that there is fantastic hockey being played in the women's leagues here as well. And as he mentioned, we've had Rachel Cartwright from the Queen Bees on, and she's great. They're all a great bunch of players. And so, yes, we'll look forward to having some more players on soon. Finn, what else you got for us?
I have a couple stories. Well, I have one main one in particular.
Okay.
So the Canucks did this big retirement ceremony.
Yeah.
They did this the week of retirement for the Sedins.
Yep.
Henrik and Daniel Sedin.
Yep.
So they retired their numbers, but they also went back and gave special banners. You know how a team would just have like for the Leafs, for example, just have blue banners with the number and the name on.
That's right. Yep.
Canucks did it for the players, for these players, with their name and number on them, whatever.
Yeah.
But they also did it in the colors scheme of the jersey that they wore at the time.
Oh, that's very cool.
Which is really cool. It's really cool. So they retired they re-retired their three main retired players.
Okay.
So they have 3 retired players now. They have 5. So they retired number 10.
Right. Do
you know?
Are you asking me who number 10 is?
Yeah, don't look it up.
I'm not looking it up. Bure. Pavel Bure?
Yeah, so you're the one that told me about Pavel Bure. So
yeah, he was amazing.
He was retired, number 10, and he had his, the orange and black one.
Yeah.
So they had that jersey. Number 12, Stan Smil.
Okay, yeah.
Captain. And number 16, Trevor Linden.
Oh, yeah. I remember Linden too.
And finally, number 19, Marcus Naslund.
Right. That's a hot roster of retired players there. Those guys were all great.
It was really cool because they had 3 of the guys at the ceremony, and then Bure couldn't make it, but he Skyped them or whatever or something like that.
What's Bure doing? Is he a coach or something, or an owner? Or?
In Russia, I think somewhere.
Is he? Yeah.
I mean, probably pretty difficult to get out there.
To get him from Russia, across from Russia. Yeah, he was amazing though.
There was also an incident the other week.
Oh.
With Jay Bouwmeester.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So this was the 12th of February.
Yep.
And he
the Bouwmeester incident.
The Bouwmeester incident. He collapsed on the bench.
Right.
He
yeah.
looked faint, and everyone was looking at him. He
Yeah.
was sitting next to the goalie, saying he wasn't good or whatever.
That's right.
And he just collapsed,
Right.
and everything stopped. He plays for the St. Louis Blues, and they were calling doctors straight onto the bench.
Yeah. And what happened?
He had a cardiac episode.
Right. So some sort of issue with his heart. And
Yeah. I believe he's okay,
Oh, all right. Okay.
or recovering or whatever, you know.
Well, yeah, these things happen, right?
Yeah, but it was kind of scary thing, and it was really sudden. I just saw it not the other day. I saw it a while back, but yeah, it was
very,
it's,
very
it's
rare.
really weird though. Same thing with it's about as rare as having an emergency goalie playing a game.
Well, yeah, it is, and it's a good thing that it's rare.
It's about as rare as a 42-year-old Zamboni driver beating the Toronto Maple Leafs.
It is about that. Well, actually, that's unique, but
Actually,
it's
but
rare
that's- Yeah.
for sure. Super rare. Super rare. What about Perlini's nose?
So this was a thing. So this is Brendan Perlini.
Yeah.
So one of the best English players for Team GB ice hockey is Brett Perlini, and shame we just let go of Scott because he'd tell you all about it or whatever.
Yeah,
so,
I forgot to mention it.
Brett Perlini plays for Team GB, and his brother Brendan Perlini
Yeah,
plays in the NHL for the Detroit Red Wings.
that's right.
Which is kind of weird. I've always wondered why Brendan doesn't come play for GB, but I guess
Well, it's
why
the
would you want to play for GB?
It's the same with our man on the Peterborough Petes.
Liam Cook.
Yeah, who's been on the show. He is also, we don't think, coming back for the GB game.
No, as in no. So Kirk has come back to play for GB when he's available to play.
Right.
Even when Perlini's available to play, he won't.
Oh, right. Well,
Or he
it could
doesn't.
be in his contract.
I mean, it could be. I mean, he plays in the NHL, right?
Yeah,
so
for sure.
it could be something like that. It could be something to do with the NHL players when allowed in the last Olympics. It could be something to do with that.
Well, it could be contract, or it could be just, he doesn't want to risk his career on a
true,
GB
it's true.
game. It's his decision to make.
No, yeah, I always found that weird, but I mean, that's the thing. But he took a skate blade in the face
Oh,
and
yeah.
ripped up his nose.
That's right. So he went, I think, if I remember seeing this correctly, he just went down, and it was just a freak thing where the guy sort of went past him, and it was the
Leg
kick of his
came
leg
up or
coming
something,
over
yeah.
or something that just
because
caught him
they
in the
collided
face.
or something, and
Yeah.
it took off a chunk of his nose, I think.
That's just like, it's one of those things, I was talking to some guys on my team the other night about mouth guards, which they call gum shields here in the UK. And most of us still, well, almost all of us, wear visors, so don't wear a cage, wear a visor, but almost none of us wear a mouth guard. And I have a professionally made one that was made by my dentist or whatever, but I just don't get on with it at all. And the thing that we were saying is that it's all good and well. You never think about it until someone's had their teeth knocked out, So you never think about the fact of how exposed your face is until someone's had their teeth mashed out, and then suddenly it's like, oh God, maybe we should all be wearing mouth guards. And it's like skates as well, Everybody tries to. People that play proper competitive hockey get their skates sharpened every game or every time that they're on the ice and whatnot. So you got all those deadly razor sharp blades out there, and eventually one of them's going to find their way to some flesh,
Yeah.
and you just got to hope it's not you. Anyway, so, but not a terrible one. Big old gash to his nose or whatever, and fixed back up, and I'm sure he's back playing again already.
I believe he probably is, to be honest.
The next day.
Yeah, next day.
Then later on that same game.
Yeah. Just did it on the bench because he's an absolute beast.
Any other news? Have we missed anything?
Have you seen the thing of the Canadian tennis player? Have you seen
yeah.
this?
Yeah. Is it, what's she called? Gina something?
No, that's Bianca Andreescu.
Yeah, sorry, is that not who you're talking about?
No.
Oh, right. No, I'm not I'm
So,
not sure who you're talking
There
about.
was a thing going around because there was this guy, and I think
Coronavirus?
no, I think this woman.
Oh, something else going on.
I think a Canadian woman tennis player did it in an interview as well.
Oh, right.
They were sitting in between, I don't know, what do you call it, sets?
Yeah.
Is that a thing?
I don't know.
What
in tennis?
Yeah, after
between
after
sets.
a rally, like what is that? I don't know what that is. What do you call it?
Not that you're a single sport focused guy.
No,
Yeah, I think it's a set.
set.
So yeah, they have a break in between sets. They're
Yeah,
just sitting there toweling
they were
themselves
sitting.
down.
He was sitting there after a set, and
I know exactly what
You
you're
know what I
talking
mean now?
about now, yeah.
So he has a bottle of Powerade next to him, but he goes into his bag and brings out a mini bottle of maple syrup and just downs that instead.
Yeah, do you think that's just completely like a joke because he knew the camera would be right on him?
No,
Because he very
doesn't look
very
like it.
clearly brings out a bottle of maple syrup and has a chug of maple syrup in between sets.
I reckon it could be real. I'm not gonna lie. I'm pretty sure I saw a woman tennis player did it in
Really?
another woman who played for Canada.
We'll have to
I
do
think
some
I think she did
research.
it in an interview as well. I think I saw.
It is the
But as a
lifeblood of
joke.
Canada. But
Yeah,
I
it's-
did
it's
not
quite good
realize
though.
that elite Canadian athletes actually run on maple syrup. No, we'll have to check that out. I do remember seeing that though. That's cool. We should put that up on. We'll post that up on social media.
I'll try and find it again.
Right. I think we should get out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Oh wait,
Well, have
I
you
got one last thing.
You always do.
I know. I always have one last thing. So I found this really cool. So, there was a goalie who. I'm a big fan of the band Nirvana, and there was a.
So am I.
I know you are too. I'm just saying.
All right then.
Yeah. And for Kurt Cobain's birthday,
Yeah.
which was the other day.
Right. What did you? I got him the same thing I always get him.
Yeah. It was 4 days ago.
Yeah.
And a goalie had his mask painted with Kurt
yeah.
Cobain on the side of it,
What goalie was
commemorative. I
that?
don't
Some
think
like
anyone
beer
found
league
it.
guy
No, it would have been some guy in like the KHL or something,
Yeah.
but like
had a Kurt
don't know
Cobain
exactly.
goal mask.
yeah, on the side.
That's cool. We could put a picture of that up too on our social.
It was really cool. I just found it really cool because it was like a big thing,
Yeah. 2 year
And,
big things.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. We're looking at a picture of it here, which I know will be interesting for our listeners.
We'll put it out. It was on Bar Down's Instagram, whatever.
Okay. Cool.
But that was good. And David Ayres played with the Leafs today.
Oh yeah.
He trained with the Leafs today, and I saw someone did a voiceover
Yeah.
on Instagram. Again, we were trying to link it to something.
Yeah.
Someone did a voiceover of like him. He was in the net, and then he's like, "All right, it might be a bit awkward after yesterday, but we'll just go over, say hi, just." And like he skates over to drink water. He's like, yeah, don't be nervous. Goes over to drink water, and it's like looks and he looks at Morgan Riley, but doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
But the guy voices over saying, "Yo, so what'd you do last night?" And then like Riley skates off, and he's like, "Oh shoot."
Yeah.
So funny.
Well, yeah, that was another hilarious point that somebody raised was the fact that when you're the emergency goalie, you're provided by the home team, which means the home team pays your salary for that game no matter what happens. So the Maple Leafs paid him to
Beat them.
to beat them.
so
That's a
weird.
great story. Great story. Anyway, listen, we should get out of here. A couple quick shout outs to some of the people that we normally talk about. We mentioned UFF Sports Official. Check them out. Their fantasy league. Check them out on social media. Also, Puck Stop Hockey. We had the good fortune of getting in touch with them recently. Finn, you needed some kit that we just could not get anywhere else. But, of course, Puck Stop Hockey here in the UK can get anything hockey related for anyone from anywhere. And they sorted us out really quickly. Perfect item there. Thanks again, Puck Stop. They're located in Sheffield. We've got All Star Sports here in Swindon, who also take care of our skates on a fairly regular basis. Great bunch of people. Beer League Republic,
Yep.
one of our favorite brands. If you haven't checked them out, take a look at them on Instagram. These are a great bunch of guys making some really cool hockey-related stuff. Check them out on there. True Hockey, who set us up with great sticks. Most recently via Herms Sports in London, Ontario. You got to go by Herms if you're anywhere in southwestern Ontario. Forget about your giant hockey shop in Vaughan and all those places. Get yourself down to Herms Sports. You won't be disappointed. Corner of Warncliffe and Southdale. Check them out. Who else? Crosscheck Clothing.
Yep.
Also making some. I noticed they're making really cool training jerseys.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, well, they're cross-check jerseys, but they
Yeah,
make
yeah.
them a sort of a black and white home and away combo,
That's pretty cool.
which is perfect for any training session.
Because you always need a dark and a light.
yeah, you need darks and lights for scrimmages and stuff like that. So check them out. Get on the Crosscheck Clothing site. That's probably it. Oh, Sports Screen.
Yep.
Still love the Sports Screen, guys. In fact, the Sports Screen was out just a couple days ago. We're back out on UK Hockey Fan members, back out on the driveway here in the UK. We're at Snow Free and on the old rollerblades and ripping shots at the Sports Screen. It's still perfect. Still one of the best hockey aids that we've ever had. So Bionic skate blades?
My favorite skate blades.
Yeah,
I love them. They're so good.
They're the jet speed behind Finn's nippy performance, and I've got a pair too. If you haven't checked them out yet, get yourself a pair of Bionic skate blades. They're better than Steps or anybody else you might hear of out there. But that's enough shameless plugs, I think, for now. Everybody who's listening and tuned in, we really, really appreciate you coming back. We appreciate all the feedback. We get loads of messages from people on social media and also to our email address and even via the website. You can check us out on our website as well, the UK Hockey Fam. You'll find us anywhere. If you haven't subscribed, do yourself a favor and subscribe, because it just gives you a notification pop up whenever another episode comes out. And we can tell sort of by looking at the stats here that people tend to like to listen as soon as they come out. So do yourself a favor and subscribe, and you'll get notified as soon as an episode is out. And we know that you're out there, 55 different countries that we can see that you're listening to, and we massively, massively appreciate it. So until next time, have a good one and keep your stick on the ice.
See you next time.
See you next time.
Is the best game you can name, and the best game you can name is the good old